Another loss. Six for Sixers podcast. I'm your host, Creek. Another loss. And this is getting to be, I won't say depressing yet, but very concerning. Let's be honest. The Sixers lost to the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, 117 to 111. Memphis sweeps the series. They beat us at home and they beat us in Memphis. Tonight they beat us without Ja Morant. And the score seemed really close, right? 117 to 111, but it wasn't that close. The last couple minutes just kind of said, hey, we got this. And the Sixers started to make a surge, created a combination for if someone's looking at the final score thinking, oh, the Sixers almost won. They did not. They were down double digits coming down to the end. They just made a run with 2 minutes left in the game. Too little, too late. Fourth quarter woes again. We'll get into that. Six for Sixers podcast. We talk all things Sixers. Haven't been here in a while because, man, I've been depressed about the Sixers. And I will say this, that there has been a lot of news. So before we cover the game, let's just talk about the news. And there's been a lot since my last show that can be reported. But let's start with the first thing is that Sixers apparently had a team meeting called by Kyle Lowry in which they discussed a lot of issues that they were having. That's a bad sign to me. I mean, I love when teams get together and they want to talk about issues that they're having. But this one seemed urgent. And even Nick Nurse said in the press conference after the last game, said, well, I was late because we had a meeting. Some of the concerns in the meeting to me would be allegedly, because I wasn't in the meeting, but this leaked out that there were concerns about Joel Embiid being punctual to team functions. And I guess that sets the tone for the whole team. When you are the leader of anything, you being there and you being present and you being punctual indicates that you actually take things seriously. And that's just called being a professional. And anybody in a professional realm knows you got to get up, you got to be to work on time, especially if you're in a leadership position. If you're not taking it seriously, you definitely can't expect those who are supposed to be following you to take it seriously. Another concern was that felt like coaching wasn't aggressive enough. Said we need to be coached harder, and I agree. The team plays like they don't really respect the coaching leadership, and they aren't really playing aggressively for the coaches. If you look at a team like the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics, Joe Mazzulla, or New York Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, they play like, they're under some kind of threat that something's going to happen to them if they don't play hard. They play really, really aggressively. And really with the Celtics, it's ingrained in their culture, which is a whole nother podcast. But they have obvious respect for their coach. They obviously are playing for their coaches. And they obviously don't want to let their coaches down. I don't get that impression from the Sixers. I almost get the impression from the Sixers that the aim is to get their coach out of there. I've seen where teams have extreme letdowns, and it appears as if they don't want their coach to be there for the remainder of the season. So I don't know what the deal is, but telling your coach, hey, you need to start coaching is not a good sign. And so Embiid also questioned his role in the offense and some of the offensive schemes they were running. It could have been due to the fact that you weren't there in the beginning of the season, and they had to play a lot without you. So I think overall we need stronger leadership. We have Embiid, we have Paul George, we have Kyle Lowry who called the meeting, but Lowry is a leader in that sense. He's a championship player, but he's not one of the main players on the team in terms of production. So we need that to come from those guys. The big three. Maxi's young, so we're looking at Embiid. We're looking at Paul George. But instead, we're looking at Jared McCain. He's like the leader of the team now. He plays with more heart and passion than anybody on the team. We should not be entrusting leadership on any team or looking at any 20-year-old rookie as the player who is really putting forth the effort. So that was the team meeting. That was one of the points of information that we haven't discussed. And then the team has just obviously been losing a lot. We have 2 wins on the season and 12 losses. We're sitting at the bottom of, I think, the whole league, definitely the Eastern Conference. The only good news is that we are, I think, a couple games, maybe 2 or 3 games out of a spot in the playoffs. So it's possible in the Eastern Conference, because the Eastern Conference is so terrible, it's possible that we can still gain a spot in the playoffs. So I'm going to go through for tonight's game, 6 for Sixers, 6 points that I think contributed to the game. There were a lot, so I'm looking at a lot, but let's talk about Joel Embiid tonight. Joel Embiid played very well tonight, I think, under the circumstances. He still looks to me like he's not 100%, but we know that Embiid, even when he's 70%, he can still go out and give you 30 or 40, as he showed against the Knicks in the playoffs. He still gave them, a tough go on one leg. So that's how good he is. Tonight, he played well statistically, 10 for 21 shooting, 35 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists. So I think he played pretty well tonight overall. He still looks to me like he's not totally coordinated with he's still falling a lot. Teams are being really rough with him, aggressive, and double teaming him a lot, which he's used to that. But I just think that he still seems to be a little hobbled, a little frail from getting back in shape. But this was the best game he's played this season. So that gives us some hope that it's potentially coming back together to that MVP form. Also, I would like to say that Joel did go to the locker room at one point, and he was grabbing his knee. So obviously that's not a good sign for him to appear to be having some issues with that knee. So I think overall, pretty good game. Joel Embiid, that was impactful in the game. He did make a critical turnover in the last minute of the game, which we were down 4 points, and he threw the ball away, trying to get to somebody else, but you're the go-to guy, so we're really depending on you. Point number 2, Paul George injury. Paul George left the game, and Paul George, I'm not sure what the injury is, hasn't been officially reported yet, but he did go to the locker room and did not return. Before Paul George's injury, Paul George was 1 for 6 and in 17 minutes for 2 points. Paul George still, even in spite of being injured, he just, before the injury, didn't look good. He doesn't have that ability to go by people like he used to, and he does not have a knockdown jumper either. So that's not a good combination. I don't know if something needs to be changed in the offense to get him some better looks. But that ISO ball one-on-one with Paul George, he's just not that guy anymore at this age. He used to be. And so now he's got to do it differently. I think that's for Nick Nurse to figure out. But I think that's possible, definitely, with Embiid, because Embiid commands a double team. But I just think that Paul George this season in general has not had that blow-by speed, and he looks like he's not that offensive threat that he used to be. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, Maxey came back. We're giving Maxey a pass tonight. Maxey was 3 for 13, 0 for 6 from 3. He only ended with 8 points. Obviously not a good showing, but Maxey is guy who is dependent on being in rhythm, and most shooters are, and he's just not in rhythm because he hasn't played in a couple weeks. But I like the effort. He was on a minutes restriction, only played 20 minutes tonight. So I look forward to having him back in full form. I think that will contribute greatly to the team. Point number 4 is the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter has been horrendous all season, and this game was no different. In the fourth quarter, the Sixers really that's when the lead really got out of hand. They had a single digit. They were down single digits in the third, but then in the fourth, it pushed way into double digits. I think it went up to, I don't know, like 17 or 19 points or something like that before they made that final run at the end. So I think that overall, the fourth quarter has been our arch nemesis. We've been terrible in the fourth quarter. And you cannot win any basketball game if you don't play all 4 quarters, particularly the fourth. When you're closing the game out, the other team is playing very aggressively, and they're playing with a heart, and they're playing like they don't want to lose. And it's almost like we're trying to coast when we don't even have a lead. So that's a dichotomy. I've seen teams coast when they do have a lead. If you have a 20-point lead, but we're trying to coast and we're down 9 points or 7 points, and other teams, they just pounce right on that. And so yeah, that is the fourth quarter for us, and that's been all season. Point number 5, overall lack of defense, and I'm talking about defensive intensity. We had 6 blocks in the game. We had 12 steals. But doesn't mean that's great defense. We're talking about stopping teams, being really aggressive in their face, rotating, not letting guys get open shots, open dunks, and so forth. And I saw a lot of that tonight. Too many easy baskets and too many wide open looks. And Memphis Grizzlies, they took full advantage. They had 44% from 3. And so they were they hit 19 3-pointers out of 43. Close to 50%. It's going to be hard to beat a team that shoots that well. Shout out to them and tip your hat to them. They did shoot well, but you have to be somewhat disruptive. You want to stop a shooter. You have to be right up in their grill, not just putting a hand up, but I mean, trying to, body them a little bit too, just to throw off the rhythm. And maybe Memphis just got hot. And Memphis is a pretty good team. They're at 9-7 in a tough Western Conference. So shout out to them in terms of doing what they had to do. But I'd still think this was a game that the Sixers could have won, especially without the Memphis Grizzlies' main star, which is Ja Morant. And we just didn't put forth the effort to make that happen. My last point, well, I'm going to give a few overtime points, but Kelly Oubre Jr. to me is a vital part of the team. He's athletic, he's wiry, he can get to the basket. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's just not producing. 7 points tonight. He only took 5 shots, and he came off the bench tonight, which could have contributed to his lack of production. I actually liked him coming off the bench because I felt that it would give the second unit a little more firepower, which they needed. And McCain coming off, McCain moving into the starting lineup, but it just didn't work. I mean, it was Maxey, McCain, Martin, George, and Embiid, and that just didn't work for us. Oubre looked out of rhythm, didn't really look confident, wasn't looking to be aggressive like we have seen him. And I really think we need Oubre to get at least, between 10 and 15 points a night. But 7 on 5 shots is just not enough production for him to really get going. On a positive note, Yabusele was really good. I think I really like Yabusele's game. Let me see what his stats were, but he ended the game with 17 points, and he was really, really sharp from three, 5 for 6 from three. I mean, 5 for 6 from three. Total 17 points with 4 rebounds. I like Yabusele. He knows how to find his spots, and I do think that the team is part of that chemistry thing. Is they are starting to find him in those spots, those elbow 3-pointers are ones that he really spots up there a lot, and we're finding them. So I think that 17 points from him is great tonight. Great effort. Jarrett McCain pouring in 20 points. Also a great effort, 6 for 13 and 3 for 7 from 3-point land with 5 assists. I really like what McCain brings to the table. So where do we go from here? Is the season is slipping away. I don't care. People say, oh, it's early. It's early. It's the 82-game season. I don't think it's that early. I think that we are pushing up on 25% through the season in the next few games. I think the next 10 games are going to really tell a story about where this team may end up by the end of the season. And obviously we don't want a 8th seed, so forth. We end up playing the Celtics or the Cavs in the first round. We want to at least get to the 3rd, 4th seed, which is still possible, but we have to go on a run. Hopefully Paul George injury is not severe, not significant, impact him, but probably will miss a couple games just because you know how the Sixers are very careful with their stars. So we look forward to the next game, and I will not say the season is lost, but I will say the Sixers need to start winning some games, because this is really, really getting away from them. Next game is Friday against the Brooklyn Nets, and current standings have the Sixers in last place. Never thought I would see that when we have some of the best players in the league, and we are on wow, yeah. So we're in last place, and we are 12.5 places out of first place. The only good news is when you look at the 8th place, which is the Brooklyn Nets, they're at 6-9. So that means we're 4 games out of that place. So maybe we can get there. We're not catching the Celtics at this point. We're not catching Cleveland. We can still catch Miami. I mean, not Miami. We can catch Miami. We can catch the Magic, I think. But we have to start playing better. So this is the 6 for Sixers podcast, and we will be putting up more videos in the near future. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Comment, get the community growing. If you're not a member of our Facebook community, please rustle on over to Facebook and sign up for the 6 for Sixers for true fans only Facebook page. Literally, and not because I'm running it, but it's the best Facebook page for the Sixers that I believe that I've been a part of, and I was pretty much a member of all of them. No nonsense, straight fan talk, very respectful environment. So join us over there, and I hope to see y'all in the next game against the Brooklyn Nets. Hopefully we can get 3 wins on the season. We haven't played the song but 2 times all season. So sad. But I think we're gonna pick it up. Hopefully Paul George is all right though. All right, y'all. 6 for Sixers podcast. I'm your brother Creek, and I will see you probably Friday night. Peace.